Chapter 1. The Crossing. The decision to move to Greece felt like salvation. After years of financial struggle, the promise of a quiet island was irresistible. Ethan believed distance could erase guilt. Marianne believed the sea could wash away grief. Their children, Lucas and Sophia, believed nothing at all. The ferry cut through the Aegean like a blade. The island appeared dry, ancient and watching. White houses clung to cliffs like bone fragments. The locals smiled too slowly. No one asked why they came. Their rented house stood far from the village. Its stone walls were colder than expected. The wind whispered through cracked shutters. At night, the house breathed. Lucas swore he heard footsteps upstairs. Sophia said the walls hummed. Ethan laughed too loudly. Marianne dreamed of drowning on land. The sea outside never rested. It pulsed like a heart. On the first night, all clocks stopped. At exactly 3:17 a.m., no one slept after that. Something had followed them. Something patient. Something that knew their names. The island had accepted them. But acceptance was not mercy. Chapter 2. The House That Remembers. Morning light revealed cracks shaped like veins. The house smelled of salt and iron. Marianne found old icons buried in a drawer. Their faces were scratched out. Sophia refused to enter the back room. She said it felt full. Lucas discovered scratches under his bed. They were not there the night before. Ethan blamed rodents. The house answered with silence. The neighbors never approached the property. They crossed themselves when passing by. A priest avoided their gaze. The wind spoke in broken Greek. At night, doors opened by themselves. The house shifted subtly. Rooms felt smaller each evening. Marianne heard crying inside the walls. It sounded like a child, but older. Lucas began sleepwalking. He stood facing the sea for hours. His eyes were open, but empty. Sophia drew pictures of a man without a face. She said he lived below the house. Ethan started drinking again. The house remembered that too. Chapter 3. The sea does not forget. The sea was calm only when watched. When ignored, it grew violent. Marianne felt pulled toward it. Dreams of black water returned. She remembered the accident, the one no one spoke about. The sea whispered her secret. Lucas claimed someone spoke to him at night. A voice from the floor. It promised forgiveness. Sophia stopped drawing faces. Now she drew doors, always locked. Ethan found an old well behind the house. It was sealed with stones. The air around it was warm. He heard breathing below. The villagers warned them to leave. They used the word marked. The house began bleeding rust from the walls. Marianne tasted salt everywhere. Food, water, air. The sea climbed closer each day. Not physically, emotionally. At 3:17 a.m., the well opened, and something exhaled. Chapter 4. What the Children Know. Lucas no longer spoke to his parents. He spoke to the house. He said it understood loss. Sophia said the house was hungry. She locked her door every night. It never stayed locked. The man without a face appeared in reflections. Only for the children. He stood behind them, smiling without a mouth. Marianne tried to pray. The words turned into seawater. Ethan attempted to leave the island. The ferry never arrived. Time stretched and folded. The sun set twice in one evening. The children aged overnight. Lucas looked exhausted. Sophia looked ancient. They spoke of a trade. The house demanded balance. The well demanded truth. Marianne began remembering everything. The child they lost, the lie they buried. The sea rose inside the house and waited. Chapter 5. The First Confession. Marianne confessed to the walls. The house listened carefully. Ethan denied everything. The house did not like that. Cracks widened like mouths. The well flooded the basement. Lucas smiled for the first time. He said the house was pleased. Sophia screamed until her voice vanished. The man without a face entered the kitchen. He carried the smell of the sea. Time stopped again at 3:17 a.m. The house demanded a witness. Someone had to stay forever. Ethan finally remembered. The accident was no accident. The sea took what was owed, but it wanted more. The house locked its doors. The island went silent. No birds, no wind, only breathing walls. Lucas stepped toward the well, smiling. Marianne followed. Ethan was left alone. The house had chosen. Chapter 6. The choice was made. Ethan woke up alone in the house. The silence pressed against his ears. Marianne and Lucas were gone. The well was sealed again, as if it had never opened. Sophia sat in the corner, rocking. She refused to look at him. She said the house had already eaten. Ethan searched the island for help. The village was empty. Food lay untouched on tables. Candles burned without melting. The church doors were locked from the inside. Icons wept black oil. Ethan heard his name everywhere, in the wind, in the stones, in his own thoughts. The house rearranged itself. Hallways stretched endlessly. Stairs led nowhere. Sophia began aging rapidly. Wrinkles formed overnight. She whispered ancient prayers. At 3:17 a.m., the sea knocked, once, twice, then the house answered back. Chapter 7. The Island Inside the Mind. Ethan could no longer tell day from night. The sun rose in the west. Memories overlapped reality. He saw Lucas as a baby again, then as a shadow beneath the floor. The house replayed his guilt. Every lie echoed loudly. He tried to burn the icons. They would not ignite. Sophia spoke in Greek he did not understand. Her eyes reflected something vast. The villagers appeared briefly, standing on the cliffs, watching. They never blinked. The well began whispering again. It promised release. The house promised punishment. Ethan started hearing footsteps behind him, but there were no reflections anymore. Mirrors showed the sea. Only the sea. At night Ethan felt water filling his lungs, but he never drowned. The island was no longer outside. It was inside him. Chapter 8. What was buried returns. The ground beneath the house softened, like flesh. Ethan dug where the well had been. He uncovered bones, small ones, wrapped in cloth. The truth screamed silently. Sophia watched without emotion. She said the house remembered everything. The sea demanded acknowledgement. Ethan held the bones and wept. The sky darkened instantly. Waves crashed against the cliffs. The house groaned in relief. The man without a face appeared again. Closer now. He placed a hand on Ethan's chest. Ethan felt the weight of judgment. Time reversed briefly. Ethan saw the night of the accident, the push, the fall, the silence afterward. The lie became solid. The house sealed itself tighter. The island inhaled deeply. Chapter 9. The Second Offering. Sophia said another offering was required. Balance had not been restored. The house shook violently. Walls collapsed inward. The sea flooded the lower rooms. Ethan begged for forgiveness. The house did not understand words, only actions. Sophia smiled gently. She thanked her father and stepped into the water. The sea accepted her without sound. The house stopped shaking. The village reappeared. Lights turned on one by one. The ferry horn echoed in the distance. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. Ethan stood alone, holding nothing. The house was calm now, satisfied. At 3:17 a.m., all clocks started again. Time resumed, but Ethan did not move. He belonged to the house now. Chapter 10. The Guardian years passed, but Ethan never aged. Tourists came and went. They admired the ancient house. They felt uneasy but stayed anyway. Ethan welcomed them politely. He never left the property. The sea whispered to him constantly. The well remained sealed, but breathing could still be heard. Children avoided Ethan's gaze. Animals refused to enter the yard. At night, Ethan stood facing the sea, listening, waiting. The house no longer needed feeding. Ethan was the balance. The villagers called him the Guardian. They left offerings at his door: salt, water, bones. At 3:17 a.m., Ethan smiled. The house breathed peacefully. The island slept. But it was never finished. It was only patient. Chapter 11. The Visitors. The first new family arrived in spring. They laughed too loudly. They admired the view. Ethan warned them gently. They did not listen. The house observed silently. At night, the walls tightened. The children of the visitors dreamed of water. They woke up coughing. The clocks stopped again, only in their rooms. Ethan felt the pull return. The house was testing him. The sea asked a question. Ethan had no answer. The visitors noticed the smell of salt. They blamed the weather. The well pulsed beneath the floor. The house remembered hunger. Ethan stood awake at 3:17 a.m., listening to new footsteps. The island smiled invisibly. Chapter 12. The Rules of Staying. Ethan wrote rules on the walls. Do not ignore the sea. Do not lie inside the house. Do not sleep at 3:17 a.m. The visitors laughed at first. Then they stopped laughing. Their reflections delayed. Children spoke to empty rooms. The house shifted again. Rooms exchanged places. The visitors argued among themselves. The house fed on tension. Ethan felt weaker each night. The Guardian was fading. The sea grew restless. The well cracked slightly. A voice called Ethan's name. It sounded like Lucas. Ethan answered before thinking. The house did not forgive that. Chapter 13. Cracks in the Guardian. Ethan began seeing Marianne again. She stood at the edge of the cliffs, always wet, always silent. Her eyes were full of blame. Ethan tried to confess again. The house rejected repetition. Truth spoken too late rotted. The visitor's child disappeared. The village pretended not to notice. The ferry never arrived that week. Time folded inward. Ethan's shadow moved incorrectly. The sea whispered alternatives. The house demanded obedience. Ethan slept for the first time. He dreamed of escape. The house punished him for it. The walls bled salt. Chapter 14. When Balance Fails. The house cracked open during a storm. Waves climbed the stairs. The visitors screamed. One by one they vanished, not violently, quietly, as if absorbed. Ethan tried to intervene. The house ignored him. The Guardian had failed. The well opened fully. The man without a face emerged. He was taller now, made of water and memory. He asked Ethan a single question. Who will watch now? Ethan had no strength left. The house began searching. Chapter 15. The New Marked. A woman from the visitors remained. She had lost everyone. The house followed her gaze. She could hear the breathing. She noticed the clocks. She felt the pull of the sea. Ethan warned her too late. The man without a face stood behind her. She did not scream. She understood. The house made its decision. Ethan felt his body weaken. Age returned suddenly. He collapsed near the well. The woman stepped forward. The house closed its doors. The island exhaled. Balance shifted. At 3:17 a.m., Ethan died. The woman did not age. The sea whispered her name. The house breathed again. The Guardian had changed. Chapter 16. Inherited Silence. Her name was Helena. The house learned it quickly. She stood where Ethan had fallen, feeling the weight settle. The village watched from a distance. They did not approach. They never did. Helena explored the house slowly. Every room knew her already. The walls adjusted to her breathing. The sea calmed when she listened. The well closed itself. Helena stopped dreaming. Sleep became unnecessary. At 3:17 a.m., she was fully awake. The house tested her resolve. It replayed Ethan's memories. She felt his guilt like an echo. Helena accepted it without resistance. The house approved. Silence became her companion. Chapter 17. The price of watching tourists returned cautiously. Helena greeted them warmly. She learned to smile like Ethan once did. Children avoided her eyes. Animals froze near her shadow. The house grew protective. It shifted to isolate danger. Helena felt the sea inside her chest, breathing in rhythm with the waves. The man without a face remained below, waiting. Helena understood her role. She did not interfere. Watching was enough. At night, she felt the island judging newcomers, weighing them, selecting. Helena did not question the choice. The price had been paid. Chapter 18. Memory as a door. Helena discovered the truth slowly. The house stored memories like rooms. Each tragedy had a place. She walked through them at night. Marianne's grief, Lucas's silence, Sophia's fear, Ethan's regret. They lived there endlessly. The sea preserved them. Helena learned the rules deeper. Balance was not justice, it was maintenance. The island did not punish, it recycled pain. At 3:17 a.m. a new door appeared. Helena chose not to open it. The house respected restraint. Chapter 19. The house tests. Love, a young couple arrived unexpectedly. They reminded Helena of herself, hopeful, unaware. The house grew curious. The sea listened closely. Helena felt something unfamiliar. Resistance. She warned them explicitly. They stayed anyway. Love made them deaf. The house tightened slowly. The well pulsed again. Helena stood still. She remembered what hesitation cost Ethan. At 3:17 a.m., one of them vanished. The other remained screaming. Helena closed her eyes. Balance was preserved. Something inside her cracked. Chapter 20. The first rebellion. Helena began changing small things, opening windows at night, letting light in, speaking truths aloud. The house resisted. The walls trembled. The sea became restless. The man without a face approached the surface. Helena felt pain for the first time. The island warned her. Guardians were not meant to hope. At 3:17 a.m., Helena made a choice. She stepped toward the well, not to feed it, but to listen. The house held its breath. Quando quiser, diga continue. Para os capítulos 21 a 25, continue. Aqui estão os capítulos 21 a 25, onde o terror psicológico se torna mais interno e inevitável. Quando quiser seguir, diga continue. Chapter 21. The voice beneath the well spoke clearly for the first time, not in words, in memories. Helena saw the island before houses, before villages, before names. The sea had always been hungry. The land had agreed to help. Humans were never required. They were convenient. Helena understood the lie. Guardians were not protectors. They were anchors. The house sensed her awareness. The walls tightened angrily. At 3:17 a.m., the sea surged upward. Helena remained still, listening. Chapter 22. Breaking the Cycle. Helena stopped welcoming visitors. She closed the house. No lights, no warmth. The village panicked quietly. Offerings multiplied. The sea grew violent. Storms battered the cliffs. The house screamed through stone. Helena felt the pain of resistance. The island demanded balance. Helena offered herself instead. She walked into the water, but the sea rejected her. Anchors could not leave. At 3:17 a.m., the house locked her inside. Chapter 23. The man gains a face. The man without a face emerged fully. He wore many expressions. Children, mothers, fathers, all lost. He was the memory collector, not a demon. A function. Helena felt pity. The house felt none. The man spoke in fragments. Release requires collapse. The house shook violently. The island cracked. Helena realized the truth. To end the cycle, the house had to fall. Chapter 24. The last night. Helena began tearing the house apart. Stone by stone. The walls resisted. The sea rose higher. The village fled. Time fractured completely. Past and present overlapped. Ethan watched from the doorway. Marianne wept silently. The children stood near the well. Helena continued. At 3:17 a.m., the house screamed. The well collapsed. The sea withdrew. The man dissolved into water. The island exhaled. Chapter 25. After the breathing stops. The house was gone by morning. Only ruins remained. The sea was calm. The clocks worked normally. Helena was missing. The village rebuilt slowly. Tourists returned without fear, but children still avoided the ruins. At night, waves paused briefly at 3:17 a.m., as if remembering. The island slept differently now, not hungry, but alert. Balance had changed, not ended. Chapter 26. What Remains. Watch's years passed peacefully, too peacefully. The ruins aged unnaturally slowly. Salt never settled there. No plants grew. The sea avoided the spot. Children reported whispers again, not from below, from the stones themselves. The village denied it. They always did. At 3:17 a.m., shadows gathered, not threatening, observant. Memory does not die easily. Chapter 27. Helena returns. Helena appeared one morning on the shore, unchanged, dry, silent. She did not remember her name. The sea recognized her. It calmed instantly. The villagers felt dread and relief. Helena walked to the ruins. She touched the stones. They vibrated softly. The house was not gone. It was dispersed. Helena understood her mistake. Destruction was not release, only transformation. Chapter 28. The Island Without a Guardian. Without a guardian, the island drifted. The balance became unstable. Random disappearances occurred. No pattern, no meaning. The sea lashed out indiscriminately. The village begged Helena to stay. She resisted. Anchors remember pain. At 3:17 a.m., the sea called her again. Not with hunger, with confusion. Helena accepted her role. Not as guardian, as translator. Chapter 29. A New Agreement. Helena walked the cliffs nightly. She spoke to the sea. She listened to the land. She set boundaries. No more houses. No more offerings. Only memory. The island resisted, then adapted. Disappearances stopped. The sea settled into rhythm. The ruins became a marker, a reminder. At 3:17 a.m., Helena smiled sadly. Balance evolved. Chapter 30. The Quiet Center. Time resumed its natural flow. The island aged normally. Helena aged slowly, appropriately. She became a story, then a myth, then a warning. Tourists felt calm. Children felt awe. The sea breathed evenly. The ruins slept. At 3:17 a.m., nothing happened. And that was the most unsettling thing of all. Diga continuo para os capítulos 31 a 35 continue. Aqui estão os capítulos 31 a 35, onde o horror se torna sutil, existencial e inevitável. Quando quiser seguir, diga, continue para os capítulos finais. Chapter 31. When Nothing Happens. The island learned boredom. Without rituals, it observed. The sea maintained distance. The land listened quietly. People trusted the calm too quickly. New paths were built. A hotel rose near the ruins. Helena warned them once. They smiled politely. Progress ignored memory. At 3:17 a.m., still nothing happened. The silence felt intentional. Chapter 32. The shape of absence. Guests reported unease, not fear, expectation. Dreams stopped entirely. Sleep became shallow. Reflections felt empty. Children stared at the ruins for hours. They said something was missing. Helena felt it too. The island lacked a center. Balance without anchor drifted. The sea pulled inward. At 3:17 a.m., the waves reversed. Chapter 33. The First Echo. A single scream broke the calm. Brief, distant, unlocatable. The hotel lost a guest. No signs of struggle. No water, no blood, just absence. Helena returned to the ruins. The stones were warm again. The sea waited. Memory began condensing. The island remembered how to focus. Chapter 34. The Necessary Lie. Helena spoke to the village. She told them the truth. Then she softened it. Some truths must lie to survive. The island required structure, not sacrifice, not worship, containment. Helena stepped into the center. She felt the pull return. At 3:17 a.m. the sea listened. The land agreed. Chapter 35. Becoming the center. Helena anchored herself. Not in stone, in memory. She did not rule. She stabilized. The island aligned around her. Disappearances stopped again. The sea breathed shallowly. Helena felt peace and loss. At 3:17 a.m. she closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to hold the island together. Chapter 36. The Cost of Stillness. Helena felt herself thinning, not fading, distributing. Her thoughts echoed across the island. Every stone carried a fragment of her attention. She no longer walked. She remained. The villagers sensed safety again. They stopped telling the story. Forgetting felt earned. At 3:17 a.m., Helena felt pain, brief, necessary. Chapter 37. The Children Who Listen. Children born on the island were different, quieter, attentive. They paused near the ruins instinctively. They heard Helena without words, warnings without fear, guidance without authority. Parents noticed nothing unusual. The island adjusted its future. No more hunger, only caution. At 3:17 a.m., children slept peacefully. Chapter 38. Erosion years wore down the cliffs. The sea reclaimed gently. The ruins softened. Helena felt relief. Erosion was mercy. Memory diluted safely. The island learned restraint. Loss no longer accumulated. It passed through. At 3:17 a.m., the waves touched the shore and withdrew. Chapter 39. The Last Witness. An old woman stood by the sea one evening. She felt watched, but protected. She smiled without knowing why. Helena recognized herself in that moment, not as form, as function. The island no longer needed a name. At 3:17 a.m., the wind was ordinary. And that was enough. Chapter 40. What Never Leaves. The island never forgot, it simply learned. The sea remained vast, the land remained patient. Human lives came and went, balanced, contained. At 3:17 a.m., nothing happened, forever.